Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I think we're all around the world. I'm really privileged and honored to be presenting this paper or this experience to honorable guests, scholars. Really, Dr. Imran, thank you for adding me to this panel, and also you put me the front line. So I wanted to be the last to learn from all these distinguished scholars and professors. However, as you suggested and instructed, I'll go ahead with this. So to give an empirical taste of what is happening with a nation out there, a very empirical experience of Afghan women in Afghanistan. I will just start because I shifted actually the focus of this presentation from my research topic, which is the examining public policy, to given my presence in Afghanistan and having had meetings with authorities and different delegations in different countries. So I thought to shift a bit the focus towards this empirical experience. Okay, so why I named it actually female education, the gateway to Afghanistan, I just realized through this visit. I was there for 10 days, part of a delegation called Jirga. Later on, I will explain why we call it Jirga. So I shifted this and I realized that female education and women empowerment is the gateway, is the only gateway now for any economic, political, and social development in the country. Now, I could realize, given all these discussions we had in the last 10 days, and still the other members of the Jirga continue their discussions with the authorities there. As you can see, Afghanistan is why this case study or this research is very unique, because you're aware that currently, according to the report of UNESCO, 112 million school-going girls cannot access education in the world. That's because of security, because of poverty, because of I don't know, availability of education in those areas. However, Afghanistan is the only country in the world which female education above primary level is officially, I needed to bold that, make it that bold, officially banned. It's the only country in the world. I did mention that also, I did mention that to the authorities of the administration, Taliban administration in Afghanistan, that you are the only officials who banned against all these international treaties, humanitarian treaties and processes all over the world. Afghanistan is the only country. That's why it makes it very unique a case. So that's why I just want to start with Jirga. This Jirga, we call, what is the Jirga? It's a very traditional council, centuries in Afghanistan and northwest of Pakistan. That is the highest authority for policy approval in the country and in the region even. Because whatever takes place in the country, like major decisions, like allowing the international troops to come in or to just decide to just leave, or any battle, anything. So that is decided in Jirga. So that's why we called it a Jirga that allows people to express their opinions, to get together, discuss an issue from a traditional, religious, politico-religious perspective and make a decision there. Just for the background understanding, there are three kinds of laws in Afghanistan. With permission of Professor Wazin, he is expert in this area, that we have constitution, we have Sharia law, and then we have customary laws. In Afghanistan, customary laws in practice actually dominate or supersede the other laws of the country. Again, this is actually, that was one of the pictures, the recent pictures. Last week we had with one of the ministers. This is another picture actually that we were all present, we discussed in details, and the 5 areas. I'm not going to go to those other 4, but the top priority and the top of agenda was female education. To be honest, most of these, or all of these ministers or authorities we met, they kind of agreed with the proposal, kind of agreed with what we came for and we proposed, and they all agreed with this. But I can come to that point that what is actually the obstacle then? And why this jirga? Because there are many other delegations, international community, UNESCO, UNICEF, UNAMA, and let's say European community and all. They don't listen to them. Why do they agree, or why did they agree to sit with us and discuss with us, and they received us? It is non-political and non-profit move or initiative by Afghans. In this jirga, there are people from Canada, from US, from the UK, from Australia, Germany, France, from Pakistan, different places. We paid for our own expenses. This is the first time, actually, it hasn't been politically oriented, actually. And we gathered, we paid for our own tickets, we paid for our hotels and transport in Afghanistan. We said, no, we are not going to accept anyone's donation with condition. We were open to any donation to support us financially. However, we did not accept any proposal or any condition that we'll pay you, but say this. No, we said, we are Afghan-oriented delegation. We will go, we will speak to them, and they knew the value of it. That's why they sat, they listened to us, and they welcomed, really. And it is the first time, I think, that it is women participation is greatly seen. We had two women among us, a doctor from America and another sister from Australia who is a member of parliament in Australia. And I just quoted the saying of a minister of the administration. He said that your visit is more important to us than meeting with hundreds of foreign ambassadors. That they say that you are an authentic organization and you came here and we will listen to you and we will discuss and think about it. Actually, given the meetings and discussions we had with them about women empowerment and female education, there are possible policies and narratives dominant to conceive, because my understanding, my background and experience in Afghanistan, when I discussed with them and with my colleagues, there are political things and notions, and there are traditional perceptions as well about women's participation in female education. And this move came to my actually assumption, or our Jirga's assumption, is because the Taliban moved from no policy for female education to the policy of no education for female. And there was no policy. So it was all military insurgents or militia or something. After 2009, they restructured themselves as a political party, as a civil administrative body, you could say. They started functioning in education, in health, and other sectors in different provinces. And after 2014, they started discussing with NATO and US and other European nations about how to integrate into the political destiny or political as a political movement in the country. And that definitely worked, because that was followed by the formal discussion and negotiations of the US from 2019 to 2021, which led to the shifts or this major political upheaval in August 2021, and the power shifted and they got the power in Afghanistan. So the major two things, I chose this cartoon thing, that they're also scared actually. They are well aware that the education they will provide will that benefit them? Will that support them to sustain in that country, or that will somehow challenge their attitude, to challenge their strategies, or let's say traditional strategy or traditional viewpoints or not? So they are well aware. I did speak to one of the deputy ministers of Ministry of Education, who came to sit with me and discuss with me for 45 minutes. We ended up 5.5 hours of discussion. We discussed about different models. We discussed about the challenges and all that. So I could see that they are also aware of any model they will be following that would affect their way of thinking. And the other thing is about traditional approach or traditional way of thinking, that in Afghanistan, I think most of you who have widely written and researched, like Professor Wazin, Professor Nahid, Dr. Simibran, that you, well, I think agree with me that women's sanctity is very important, like Nang, we call it. So this Nang, as I gave the example to one of the ministers, I said that if you consider a tree that you want to preserve it, they say we want to protect women and we want to preserve, we want to protect and support women. But they said, if you put a tree, if you love a tree and you want to put it inside your room, no water, no air, no sunshine, and you want to protect it, then day by day, this tree will die. So this type of protection doesn't work. You have to have it exposed, of course, not for like invasions or any interventions towards their chastity or their traditional values, religious values, but let this grow. Let this tree grow. Let this tree be exposed to receive support or from sun, from air. Otherwise, this tree will die. I give just that example that we know that you care about sanctity of women, but this type of sanctity will vanish the whole society, because women are part of the society, and that is one of the things actually you could see that why I chose this photo, that they are squeezed inside this bus. I used it in other contexts and another presentation as well. This is like -6 degree Celsius in Afghanistan. Men are exposed to the cold, but they let the women sit inside. You can see they are squeezed in, and they are protecting them in a way. But on the other way, their protection actually, this kind of protection will kill them, will vanish them actually, because so much protection from all necessities and all let's say sources and available sources will end up their negative. So how it started also, there are some other areas actually that to look at. When I visited Afghanistan last 2-3 years, there is a conflict or clash of school, school and traditional madrasas. And we are all aware that the current administration of the Taliban are the students of the madrasas. And whatever we all know from Pakistan, from Afghanistan, India, Bangladesh, I can see some of the Bengali participants, researchers, that these madrasas, situation with madrasa students is not as good as in schools, because schools are supported by UNICEF, UNESCO, from government, but madrasas are left to the community. Only community supports madrasas, or these religious seminaries in English, we call it. So this also created some sorts of hatred, two types of hatred. Hatred of humiliation and hatred because of the deprivation. They believe, the madrasa students, they believe that all happened to them, deprivation and humiliation, is because of the schools, because of the school graduates. Because when the school graduate is graduated, he goes and becomes a director, an employee, then the director, then the minister. He has cars, he has house, he has everything. But the graduate of this madrasa ends up in a mosque, just waiting for food to come from community, and there is no development. He has to stay there, and he has to wait for the community to pay them for their survival. So there is also this type of hatred and this clash that, according to a socio-political scholar, actually I met in Istanbul, he said that this would take almost half a century if we start the mission now to establish or reconcile these two institutions in Afghanistan. And how it started, actually, it goes back to like a century when King Amanullah went to Turkey, went to Europe and came back to Turkey, and he vowed to modernize Afghanistan. Of course, this was according to some historians and scholars. They say this was a big mistake to replicate the modernism of Europe into the context of Afghanistan, which ended up. And he wanted to reform. He wanted to remove. He asked to remove the burqa, everything, and so that led him leave the country, and then the struggle and the problem again continued between these two sides and these two institutions. And again, the new experience. Why Mehman? Mehman, we call it guest. Why Mehman became Dushman, like an enemy? Because we know Afghans are very famous for hospitality. Its history says this. But why this foreigner, the foreigner who used to come to Afghanistan, he was well received, he was given food, shelter, but the Afghans wouldn't like this kind of Mehman to come with guns and attempts to modernize and to liberate women from the confinement of religious and traditional values. This is actually how I can articulate this, because the main intention for most of the organizations in Afghanistan came within the last 20 years, 25 years, but I'm talking about 20 years of US NATO presence, to liberate women. That was the slogan, that we are here to liberate women from confinement of religious and cultural confinements. Because they didn't learn actually from the history that this doesn't work in this kind of socio-cultural landscape of Afghanistan. And these types of projects were implemented. Look at this project, that $280 US spent to empower 75,000 Afghan women. But that helped, this is the report by BBC and SIGAR, that helped only 60 women. And during the presence of NATO, US, and all these international communities, this kind of reputation will definitely warn the current administration to be well aware of international interventions and donors and funders and all that. So that is the reality. Unfortunately, this is the critical reality that. And now, whatever policies, whatever strategies we are planning to implement and design, we have to consider the context of Afghanistan, which is completely different to other contexts. What is the way out? The way out is just dialogue, because Afghans cannot go to another war. And we haven't got, really, to be honest, we haven't got any alternatives left. In Afghanistan, only the powers or the party, whatever power or an individual who can rule the country, who has some power, an army behind. Not international army, just national inside. We could experience the experience of the Mujahideen, who were supported by the US to defeat Soviet Union, and then again the Taliban came, and now the Taliban, they have the power, they have army, they have very centralized army that whatever the leader says, and a soldier outside, in maybe 10 or 15 provinces away from Kandahar will definitely accept. And so that's the critical reality that we have to accept, that we haven't got any options or any alternatives left, but we have to work very hard with these people to reform them and to tell them that this way they cannot progress. Given our JIRGA discussions and meetings, we could see that there is a light, there is a hope. Before going to Afghanistan, in the last 2 years, sometimes I used to feel hopeless that even with Dr. Imran, when we visited, we found some of them, not talking, not discussing. There was just one way thinking individuals. But this time when we discussed, we found out that there is a hope, and we can see it. It may take us maybe a day, a year, or a decade, as according to one of our JIRGA members, Ustad Kamawal, that the struggle and efforts continues, and we're ready for it. As we all vote to continue this struggle, and they requested us to visit them frequently, not every year, every 3 months, 4 months, just keep meeting people, expand this mission, this movement, this initiative wider and bigger, bring in people like scholars in, those who love Afghanistan, those who love peace, and this will definitely succeed. And everybody is now aware of our JIRGA in Afghanistan and even outside Afghanistan. So we felt really hopeful that there is light. We can walk towards that. And also we had some proposals for this female education, how we could incorporate and allow women to study. I myself, I had a long discussion with the Ministry of Education. I could say that once this big agenda of reopening female education or female schools and universities is done, and we are satisfied, we can work with you. We can bring in different models, like model of Imam Khatib of Turkey is a wonderful example and a model that they could, or Nepal model of peace building curriculum from Nepal that we studied really in the UK. That's an amazing model and let's say like a curriculum for a post-conflict nation. Or Mirza Ulugh Beg Madrasa, I gave this curriculum, I showed it to minister or the deputy minister of the administration in Afghanistan a few days ago. I said, look at the madrasa, because now you say in a madrasa, all subjects are religious, but look at the madrasa in 15th century in Samarkand, where I am currently in. So that has philosophy, logics, geometry, astronomy, and all these. Look at this. And there are only 3 or 4 subjects, Islamic subjects or religious subjects, like Islamic studies, at-tafsir, the translation or explanation of Quran, Quranic commentary, and then only 3 subjects. The rest, they were all contemporary science. If we have such madrasa, let's do it. Why aren't you open for this? That could also be another way out. And also I explained also the 4A and 4R, like 4A, the adaptability, availability, affordability, and accessibility of education, that whatever they are practicing, if they want to be recognized internationally, they have to accept all international theories and standards that will help them to grow. that the education has to be redistributed, recognized, and again, reconciliation needs to be taken into consideration, that these facts, and they are aware, they welcomed, to be honest, they welcomed it, but they want us to come and work now. But we said, sorry, we have to prioritize things. Once you open the gates or the doors of universities and schools to everyone, including the women, then we are ready to come voluntarily, work with you, and develop this country. This is, I think, the last thing. This is one of my projects. Like a few years ago, I had in Afghanistan the very local community-based adult female literacy project that we used Paulo Freire's approach that lets women decide what to learn and how to learn. Some women came with the graphics, some women came and just talked, some women just wrote, and they, to help the community to empower. It's not the ultimate aim, is not just to make them literate, but to empower them and to become leaders of their own societies. I think that's all from me. If any question, please, anyone, welcome to. I'm not sure, Dr. Imran, if I was within my time frame.
No, you're just perfect. Just finished on perfect time. Thank you. Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much, Saeed, for that very engaging and informative presentation. I will open the floor up to questions from colleagues, from guests, from our students. Anybody would like to ask a direct question, please raise your hand. I know I've just seen in the chat, Zain has a point. Maybe Zain would like to address it himself, or I can read out his point. It says, Zain, would you like to address Saeed at all? It's a decent. He says, I don't think there's a cultural barrier regarding female education. I believe this is a misconception. However, this word cultural barrier has been or has highlighted this point. I suppose that's what Zain's saying. Zain, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that, but I suppose, Saeed, in terms of a cultural barrier, could you expand upon that point when you talk about cultural barriers? Because we've certainly spent a lot of time discussing this notion, so maybe for the wider audience, please.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Zain. That's a very valid point, actually. When I say cultural barrier, actually, it is, as I mentioned earlier, the customary laws supersede Sharia law and Constitution of Afghanistan in most of the rural areas. Like, I think just this example will give you the answer to Zain and to everybody else. Like even before the Taliban, during 20 years of international presence in Afghanistan, only in Helmand, I can give you the example that the female literacy rate in Helmand was 1.6% before even the Taliban. There was no closure of schools or universities. They were all allowed to go to universities, but people didn't allow them, the parents. And we had some discussion with Professor Wazin last time that it's people, as I said, that the schooling, formal schooling in rural areas, especially in the south and southeast, is some sorts of taboo, like sending girls to school is exploiting them. Unfortunately, as I said, it takes really some time to reconcile between masjid and the school, or madrasa and school. That is there. Actually, this is a fact. You can go to the report of UNESCO. It's 1.6% female literate in Helmand. Taliban didn't ban them. Taliban didn't stop them. But it's just the sensitivity actually within the society, unfortunately, and it really definitely takes time. Yes.
Can I ask Osama Yusuf, please? Osama has his hand up. Osama, are you there?
He posted his question in the comments.
Oh, yes. Okay. Sorry, I'll open up. Okay, actually, I think this is Asif Ibrahim. He's an MPhil scholar, Center for South Asian Studies from University of Punjab. His question is, how can education programs be designed to respect Afghan culture and religious values while still promoting gender equality? Excellent question. Excellent question, Asif.
Wonderful. Thank you. Actually, the whole mission that I have been discussing and examining public policies within these countries, the whole mission, the whole goal is to come to a conclusion and reconcile again, as I said, to come to a reconciliation point where we can bring formal education or modern education with cultural, to embed it with cultural aspect or cultural values. So whatever picture actually in the last 20, 25 years actually were portrayed, we could address those things. That's why I brought in the model of Imam Khatib. Like, just briefly, I can say that they have 16 subjects, 8 subjects, religious subjects, and 8 subjects, contemporary subjects, till 9 years. After 9 years, they sit and discuss which area the student is capable of more and where he has interest, they can choose. So if there is a doctor, he has knowledge of religious studies, and if he is a Maulana or a Mullah, he has a knowledge of contemporary studies. So we are working towards that. Given the context of Afghanistan, it's a very, let's say, socio-cultural, religious-cultural society. We have to be very much aware of the context, this context, because in the last 100 years, the British and then the modernists and then the Soviets, very latest, the American, NATO Americans, they tried to bring in and import and import different models which were not relevant to the context of this country, and that failed. So we have to be very careful to please everybody there, and not to lead, not to initiate another conflict, internal conflict, because of a new policy introduction.
Okay, I'm going to ask, I have 2 more questions for you, Said, and I think we're going to have to stop there because we are overrunning by quite a lot as usual. This is a typical South Asian trait as well, unfortunately. But 2 more questions for you, Said, last 2 questions. One is from Rimsha, I think, Rimsa.
Yeah.
She's an MPhil scholar from South Asian Studies, again from University of Punjab. So Professor Naid will be very happy. Top students here. How can the traditional jirga system be used to support and promote the reopening and acceptance of female education in Afghanistan? Another brilliant question.
Yeah, this is actually, I can tell you, our jirga is an empirical example, and that's the only way I think forward. And they don't value any other thing, any other movement, any other initiatives, like coming from foreign countries, or just that's the only way out, Rimsha. And I really like the way you articulated this sentence, and we are very much hopeful. We are very much looking forward to this, that this will definitely, inshallah, lead to a positive ending, inshallah, and pray for that.
And last question, this is from Osama Yusuf, who is also at the University of Punjab, South Asian Studies. So that department there really has my backing at the moment. His question is, how is the official ban on the female education in Afghanistan damaging the country's image on the global stage, particularly in terms of diplomacy, economic relations, and international aid? Again, very engaging. Excellent question.
It is already for the last 3 years. So we have no doctors for 3 years, no graduates. We have no teachers, graduates. We have no engineers, no lawyers. It has already given a big blow to the economy, to the academic body of the country, and socially, mentally, actually. If you go to Afghanistan, especially these girls who were banned, they are mentally actually stressed. There is a trauma already in the country. The parents, they're already suffering. And the country, as I said, female education, the gateway. It is the gateway, Osama. So if this issue is resolved, this gate will open for international recognition. The world has already the superpowers and donors like IMF, like UN, UNESCO, UNICEF, they've already promised that if this issue is resolved initially, so the doors will open. It has already given a big blow to the economy, to the social structure, to the future of the country. So we can't bear it anymore, really, to be honest. That's hard to start it, to just reopen the doors. We can't bear anymore.
I have a question from Shamrez, but I'm going to hold that question, Shamrez, for Professor Wazin. I think that's very appropriate for him to answer. So without further ado, Said Bhai, thank you very much for that very wonderful and engaging presentation. I think a lot of people here, especially our young students, will be greatly informed by some of the topics that you've touched upon. There's a lot of food for thought, so to speak, for us to start now thinking about, because it's not as simple it's not simple as just saying the Taliban has banned education, they are evil, they are bad, etc. Actually, there's a lot to unpack. And Said Bhai's, that's the research that he's undertaking. He's unpacking it slowly. Yes, Taliban is involved. There are many elements, especially their policy decision making. But what are the cultural, religious, traditional factors, along with international factors, which have led to this policy formation? So fantastic presentation. Thank you very much for that.